The Energy East pipeline is on its last leg, partly because of new regulations coming down from the National Energy Board. This includes factoring in upstream emissions to the approval process. That includes any emissions that take place from the point of extraction to the point of sale, including emissions from production, transport, and handling. These are things that other companies deal with and would be totally out of the control of TransCanada altogether. That's pretty unfair, but there's more. The feds are partnering up with different organizations to do the legwork on these regulations. They used foreign-funded anti-oil group, the Pembina Institute, to make recommendations on the Pacific Northwest LNG project. And now that $36 billion project is dead. And Rachel Notley also used them to make suggestions on the 100 megaton cap on the oil sands to her hand-selected oil sands advisory group that was co-chaired by eco-radical Zipporah Berman. We just found out what the Pembina Institute recommended, and they're more extreme than I ever imagined. The Rebel has documentation through Freedom of Information requests that outline how Pembina suggests handling these emissions. Let me tell you about the worst parts. What stood out the most for me was that their calculations on the 100 megaton cap on the oil sands already include upstream emissions. It says right here that upgrading is included in assessments, and here it says all of the data includes cogenerate electricity, heat, and off-road transport. You might be wondering why this is important. Well, Energy East would be transporting dilbit from the oil sands, which means that these emissions have already been factored in by the provincial government. And if the NEB is including upstream emissions in the pipeline approval process, they'd already be accounted for. It doesn't make any sense. But back to this 100 megaton cap. Some of those recommendations from Pembina were really controversial. They included reassessing projects that had already been approved but hadn't started yet. Here, a bureaucrat says they, meaning Pembina, would basically see this as a reevaluation of issued approvals that have not started construction to prioritize which projects are in the Alberta interest and not expected to break the cap. As performance improves, there would be more room for new projects. In other words, projects can be halted if they're deemed to be too emissions intensive by Rachel Notley and her caucus of former Starbucks baristas and university students turned overnight politicians. What's even worse is that the Alberta Energy Regulator, the actual experts that handle Alberta's oil and gas regulations, were uncomfortable with some of Pembina's research. They said they needed more analysis in order to endorse their plan. So that should tell us a lot about these recommendations. I said that double factoring these upstream emissions into the equation in pipeline approvals doesn't make any sense, but it does if you're a Liberal or the Alberta NDP. They're against pipeline construction, and these double regulations mean putting an end to Energy East. What's really crazy is that both the feds and the provincial government are using Pembina to make recommendations. So the Institute actually knows exactly what they're doing. The Liberals and NDP hate the oil and gas industry and they want to put an end to it. They just don't want to say it themselves, so they get their friends over at the Pembina Institute to do it for them. For the Rebel.media, I'm Holly Nicholas. Thanks so much for watching. Our critics want to shut us down, but Ezra has a plan. Go to istandwiththerebel.com for all of the details and to show you're with us today.